Hey guys, welcome back to Matthew's Ballistics. Tonight, working on some 338 Lapua. With these loads, I'm just gonna use some of my previous load data and load them up because I've got some extra bullets, some Hornady 285 ELD M's. I've got some just a handful of Barnes 225 grain bullets, and then I've got some Lapua 300 grain bullets. Um, but I'm waiting on getting some new brass. So with the existing brass that I've got a few that already have primers in them, and I'm gonna go ahead and just load those with my existing load data that I have developed. But I've got some plans coming up. I've got some new tools to test out. I'm going to try to really dial in some accuracy here. So I got some K&M precision shooting products. I've got their large pocket primer correction tool, the small primer pocket correction tool, and I also bought the standard flash hole uniforming tool. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna load some of these. I'm gonna load. I'm gonna load. Well, I'm probably just gonna go with the Hornadies, and I'm gonna load these up with those, and then because I already have primers in them. Once I get the rest of my tools in, I'm gonna start fresh. But I also bought the Hornady neck turning tool, and I got it set up, and then I realized that the RCBS and Lee shell holders will not work with the Hornady because the hole going through the shell holder in the bottom is too small. So I had to order a set of Hornady shell holders, and I'll be waiting on those. Actually, I haven't ordered them yet. And I need to order a few other things, and I'm waiting till the next pay period. So it's gonna be a couple weeks before I really break these tools out and get into using them. But for now, I'm just gonna keep loading the way I have with what I got. I really want to test them when I get to the burger bullets. And hopefully I'll have new brass then too, or be getting ready to have new brass at that point. So with this old brass, I am going to experiment with uniforming the primer pockets and flash holes, and also neck turning a few pieces of it. I don't know that it's going to help all that much because this brass is, like 4, 5, 6 firings now. So it may help, it may not. Some of the brass is starting to crack. I get an occasional piece, I've been getting an occasional piece that cracks, and I just kind of have to throw it away. So I've been paying really close attention to the necks on these cases because that's where they tend to be cracking at. So that being said, I'm gonna start out. I'm gonna load up the Hornadies, and then when I run out of Hornadies, I'll go to the Barnes, and then I'll go to the Lapua, and then I've got of the. I've got 5 of the Alco bullets left of the 250 grain Alcos, and I'm gonna load those up. Haven't heard much back from Bill, but supposedly I'm going to be. I had ordered some more 452 bullets from him for loading in the 454 Casul for the long range project there, and I'm still waiting on those. It's been a little bit, but of course he needs some tooling and this and that takes a lot of time. But I also would like to order some 264 bullets from him, some 6.5 6.5 millimeter bullets from him, and test those out. But he also is supposed to be getting back with me on some information about seeing if any of the other guys testing his 338s are having better luck than I am. as you can recall in previous videos, we weren't having such a good time with those, but they shot. They just weren't grouping very good for me. I think it's a little bit of a stability issue, and I don't think that changing the powder is really going to help it that much. So I'm going to go and stick with what I know works for now. Do some Hornadies and some burgers and some Barnes and some Lapua bullets, and really want to hold on to my burgers until I get new brass and really can. I'm gonna continue working on some load data for the used brass that I've got with the burgers. I think I've got it pretty much lined out though the way I want it, and I really just need to start out with fresh brass and neck turn all of it, uniform all the primer pockets and flash holes, and then start out with a really good base. Instead of having brass that's mixed and maybe fired 3 times, might be fired 6 or 7 times. I really don't know at this point. So all of my 338 brass that I've got now, I've got, I don't know, 120 pieces of it, maybe 150 pieces of it. I'm just gonna, this is gonna be my load testing brass and plinking brass, and as the necks on it crack and I throw them away, I'll weed them down to, until I run out of that brass. But at that point, I will have a couple hundred new cases of Lapua brass for the 338 Lapua. And that's really what I want to start fresh with these 300 grain burgers, to see what it really does when you start out fresh with new brass and you really take the time and prepare it the way it should be prepared for precision shooting. With that being said, I'm doing the same thing with 6.5 Creedmoor. I've got a bunch of 6.5 bullets left, a bunch of random ones that I need to weed through. And I'm going to do that with all my used brass. I'm just going to load it up and load it to where I know it runs good, and just, stick it back, and that'll just be, range day stuff. And then when I get new brass, I'm going to work on some new load data, because I'm switching to a 144 grain full metal jacket from Lapua. And the reason why I'm switching to that is because I want a bullet that's got a really nice ballistic coefficient, but also will run in semi-automatic. With the Hornadies that I really like to shoot, the Hornady ELDMs, and also the Hornady VMAXs, the 95 grain VMAX, the issues that I've run into is that the polymer tips, like under force when they're being rammed by the bolt carrier in the semi-automatic upper, ramming that tip of that bullet into the feed ramp and whatnot is damaging them and causing some issues, feeding issues, and I'm sure accuracy issues too. So, they work great in the bolt action upper, but I want to have one bullet and one load that works in the bolt action and works in the semi-auto upper for the AR-10, and I want it to just work great. And running it at mag length and not maximum length for the bolt action upper, running it to where I can feed it in the mags reliably in the AR. I was probably not going to be optimal length OAL or whatever for barrel tuning for the bolt action upper, but with the barrel tuner on the bolt action upper, I should be able to tune all that back out, hopefully to where it goes back to printing, some at least 1/4 inch groups. That's what I want, some good clover leafing. And so that's what I've got planned for the 6.5 Creedmoor. Is I'm just going to go to a straight 144 grain FMJ from Lapua, not really mess with anything else. I'm trying to basically streamline my reloading, so I can figure my load data out and spend more time actually shooting instead of playing in the reloading room, to where I just, okay, this is how I'm loading my ammo, load up 300 or 400 rounds of it, and be done with it. And then doing the same thing for the 5.56. I have been loading a lot of just 55 grain FMJs just because I have them, and just because I've got a lot of brass and plenty of primers for it. But when I start running low, or finally run through all the range brass I've got, and finally I'm just gonna load up a bunch of ammo that's gonna be good in anything that's chambered in 5.56 that I want to put it in, and just stick it back. And then I'm planning on ordering some new brass, some match grade brass for 223, and I'm going to start loading some precision rounds in the flavor of a 80.5 grain burger, the full bore OTM hybrid hollow point match bullet they make, because it's the heaviest I can run from them in the barrel twist that I have. So that's my plan with that. Is I'm going to go to a heavy bullet in there for the 223 5.56, and I'm going to load my precision rounds up, and that's what I'm going to stick with. I'm just going to stick all this other ammunition back, kind of as a insurance policy, I guess, just to have ammo if I want to go shoot and just want to have some fun. I'll just grab a couple boxes of that and head to the range and then shoot it, and save the brass. Obviously, I'm gonna keep reloading it until it fails and throw the brass away. I've got no reason not to. So, anyways, I did also get a new set of calipers finally, because my other set it was starting to give me some crazy readings and starting to not work, but about 50 or 60% of the time it was working. So I was starting to have some issues with that, and it was causing a bit of a hang up with my reloading. So I finally got some new calipers. These are cheap ones. They're National Metallic calipers, are like 15 or 16 bucks or something for a pair of them. I am saving up for a good set of the Mityu Toyos or Mityu Yodos, or whatever, however that's pronounced. I am stuck back some money for a set of those, for a really nice set of calibers. Other than that, oh yeah, I've been asked why I don't use a bullet comparator for loading when I'm checking OAL on rounds and whatnot. And the idea is that really the only OAL that matters to me for the most part is the one that fits in the magazine, because single feeding rounds, I don't have a problem with it if I got time to sit there at the range and do it. But when it comes to running them in a mag, I basically just want to run the bullet out to the right length to where it fits in the mag, and then load the rest of them to relatively the same. And I say that relatively to the same is because the profile on the bullets from one bullet ogive to the next may be different, and the overall length on the bullet, if you actually measure the individual bullets, the lengths may be different. So I get them close, and I don't really worry about getting my OAL exactly the same with every single bullet. And the reason why is because the die is actually going to take care of that for me. It's going to make sure they're all seated correctly, because the die seats it down on the ogive anyways. So if you get your die set to where, hey, it's throwing a relatively, the OAL is relatively what I want it to be. It's not too long, it's not too short, it's in the right region. Then the die is going to seat that ogive exactly the same every time, given that your neck tension on your brass is exactly the same every time. Hence the reason to buy the neck turning tool. So making sure every round has the exact same cartridge overall length is not necessary. because you're basically just chasing the different variances in ogive if you try to do that, like whether you're seating it too long or too short and try getting it all the same. I found that if you find a cartridge overall length that you like with the first round, lock your die in and then just load 5 and measure the 5th. And then if it's pretty close, load 5 more, measure the 5th. And if it's a little bit out, maybe give it just a very slight turn, tighten it down a little bit, and then load 5, or run 5 more and check it, and then just keep running them, and then you'll find over time that die settles out, and then it starts really seating the bullets very consistently. But that's just something you kind of got to play with and kind of got to know what you're looking for. So yeah, cartridge overall length, not that important. It's important as far as feeding ability, making sure it feeds in the gun properly, or as long as it doesn't contact the lands too much to where you can't close the bolt and all that. But basically, as far as getting it super consistent, making sure every round is exactly the same or within like 1/10,000th of each other or something, it's not going to matter that much. So I just wanted to talk on that a little bit, and I'm going to get in here and I'm going to load up some of these 338 Lapua that I've already got primed and sized and ready to go. And I'm going to start with some 285 grain ELDMs, and I'm going to go with probably the same load that I've got going right now for the 300 grain burger. I'll just use that weight powder, and it'll run fine, it'll shoot good, it'll group decent. There's nothing really much more I can do for it, other than start with fresh brass and go through the neck turning and the primer pocket sizing and uniforming and all of that. So hopefully when I get some new brass, that's where I'll actually test new brass that I didn't do anything to, versus new brass that I neck size or turn the necks on and then uniform the primer pockets. And it would be interesting to see what kind of results we get. But it's going to be a few weeks, maybe a month or so before I really get into that. Right now I'm just kind of buying a few things as I can every couple weeks, so bear with me. We've got some new stuff coming on. I'm looking at buying a new scale and some other tools and whatnot. So anyways, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you've got any questions or comments, or you want to let me know what you think, or hell, let me know how you like to load, and maybe you've got a way of doing something better than what I've got, and or vice versa. Let me know what you think, and we will see you next time in the next video. It's been Matthew's Ballistics.